Hello, everyone. My name is Shama. I am the program director here at Girls and Geese. We have yet another fantastic episode of our Ask a Black Belt segment. Today, we have on a very special Black Belt. Her name is Katie Egan. She's out of the Pacific Northwest. She's under Foster Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She's also in charge of Women That Roll. If you've seen that Instagram handle, there's merchandise in addition to a podcast that's coming, I hear. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I have been training for about 9.5, almost 10 years. I live in the Seattle area I'm a black belt under James Foster at Foster Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Kent, Washington. We are a One Jiu-Jitsu affiliate under Jiva Santana down in California. That's pretty much all the basics.
Excellent. So I'd love to have black belts of all, the black belts are like, there's a huge like spectrum, right? Like there's the ones that have been training for like 20 years, and then there are the ones like, yeah, I just got my black belt yesterday, right? And I think that there's like people forget that it's like there's a whole nother jujitsu journey just within your black belt, right? So tell me a little bit, how did you get started in jujitsu? What brought you to the art?
So I actually I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship, and I wanted to kind of learn how to defend myself and not really feel like a victim anymore. So I saw a Groupon for like a 30-day kickboxing class. And so I just bought it and I showed up, and I absolutely hated it. It was, I did not enjoy it at all. Not my thing. But as I was leaving, I saw a jiu-jitsu class going on, and I was watching it, and I was like, wait, no, that's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And so they transferred the 30 days over into jiu-jitsu, and they were like, just try it, see what you think. And so I started it the very next day. I never went to another kickboxing class ever, still haven't. And I basically just started and never stopped. I fell in love from the beginning, and it's been one of the best things in my life.
Excellent. Yeah, I remember you from way back in the day. I think you were a white belt or blue belt. It was beginning of your journey early on. You were in Texas for a bit.
I started down in Dallas. I got my blue belt from Alex Martin's, and then I moved up here as a 4-stripe blue belt. So I've gotten my purple, brown, and black belt from James Foster.
Very awesome. Very cool. So was competition something that you jumped into like immediately, or was it something that like you had to kind of be coerced into, or was that, I'm always curious to hear.
I've been a lifelong athlete. I did sports growing up and in high school and in college. And so after college, before I found jiu-jitsu, I was kind of a little lost on that avenue. So when I joined jiu-jitsu, about 3 months in, I saw this all women's jiu-jitsu tournament, and I didn't have any female training partners. So I was like, wait, this sounds amazing. And it was for like all the proceeds went to, I think, domestic abuse or something really great. And I was like, okay, I'm doing that. And I signed up, and I absolutely loved it. I was a nervous wreck, but I ended up winning the tournament, and then I just never stopped competing, minus like COVID, because COVID, no one was really competing. But besides that, I think the longest I've gone is like 2 months without competing.
Nice. I like to ask all the athletes this. Do you still get nervous?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's just part of it. I think if you aren't getting nervous, you're either lying or you don't care enough. I definitely have worked a lot over the years with my like mental training and trying to get my nerves under control and put a more positive spin on those feelings, rather than having it be a negative thing of I'm really nervous because I don't want to disappoint people. It's, well, I'm actually excited because I want to do really well.
Yes. I've read about that, and I've heard that a lot, and I that was something that I implemented as well, is where you shift your thoughts from I'm not nervous, I'm excited, like I am so excited to be here, I'm so excited to go compete. And it really, because those two are the same feelings in a lot of
Yes.
ways.
And psychologically, it's like physically, it's the exact same thing. It's just whether you're putting a negative or positive connotation on it. And so I'm like, no, I'm not going to be negative about how I'm feeling. I'm going to be positive.
Yes. No, that's awesome. What are some other things that I'm interested to learn that you've helped to kind of help cope with, either with the anxiety and stress of competing or just in the mental training of becoming a better athlete? It sounds like
So
that's explored.
But I have a mantra that I'll say in the bullpen and like before I step on that just helps center me, that helps keep me in the moment rather than focusing on all the losses or the matches that don't go your way. Because if you compete enough, you're going to lose. You're not going to always win, unfortunately. Um,
Mhm.
and so I have a mantra that I say, and it's I am calm, I am collected, I am a champion, and that doesn't go in the I'm a champion because I win. I'm a champion for showing up. I'm a champion for doing the camp, for doing the work, and for trying.
Yeah.
Of course, like winning is always the goal, but I
Yeah.
think I've come to a point where I'm like, I get a lot out of the camps. I learn so much. I progress so much. And while, yes, I want to be the best, but I also just want to be the best I can be. And sometimes that's more what I will focus on rather than I want to beat everybody, which I do. But
Hmm.
it's also a personal journey, and coming to terms with loss is helping you grow is really important, and not only in jiu-jitsu but just as a person.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I know you've recently started to explore yoga. Is that something that you've incorporated in your training regimen for some time now? Or is it something that you've recently started exploring? And how does it tie together with your jujitsu journey?
So I've been doing yoga for a long-ish time. And I just got my 200-hour yoga teaching certificate, so I can start certification, so I can start teaching yoga.
Yeah.
But I really find it kind of the recovery part of it. I call jujitsu like forced yoga because people are forcing you into these yoga positions. So I've really found that it helps me with recovery and helps me with cutting weight because I do a lot of hot yoga. So it's like
Mhm.
stretching in a sauna. It's
Yeah.
it's really good for that, and it's really good for my mental health too, because it's connecting movement through your breath, and so it really helps center me in that part. Versus I in jujitsu, a lot, especially in the beginning, you forget how to breathe, and so I think it's helped with the breath work into jujitsu as well.
Nice. Excellent. So I'm just, who are you outside of jujitsu? Do you even have time outside of jujitsu and yoga? What are some interests you have? What does your day to day look like?
So I am a mom. I have a 12-year-old yellow belt, and a wife. My husband, Ty Bithrow, he's the photographer at most of the events. He's a first-degree black belt. So jujitsu is really important to all of us. So family is takes up a lot of my time. And we have two dogs and two cats. So my fur babies as well. And then outside of that, I really love to read. I read everything and anything. I probably read every single day. I like to play video games as well. And outside of teaching jujitsu and all that, I'm actually really introverted. So I like having the me time part. So those are two of the things. And then I also really like board games. And so we have a ridiculous collection of all types of board games. Not that there's anything wrong with Monopoly and all those ones, but more like deck building and engine building and the more complex board games that are super nerdy and things like that, and like Dungeons and Dragons and role playing games. Like I love all of that, and
Nice.
like it's my downtime outside of jujitsu when I have time, which is hard to find.
Yeah. How do you find time to balance it all?
Um, That's a good question. I'm still working on that. Um, so during a fight camp, like when I'm just starting it for Master Worlds now.
Hmm.
So jujitsu is going to be a main focus of my life right now, and I'll kind of work things around it. Um, and I know that the other things, my social life and all that stuff, is going to take a kind of a backseat to that. But I do have times in between those fight camps that I'll do more. So that's kind of like the balance. But of course, like family always comes first. So if something comes up, I'm going to skip training to be there for my husband or my daughter.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's prioritizing, right?
Yeah.
So that's so. How do you incorporate? What does your camps look like? I know. I know for me personally, when I was younger and I was actively competing, getting in that mode constantly of camp, off camp, it can become exhausting. How are you? And it's hard on the body as well. So, what are some things that you do to kind of keep you consistently without burnout, um, mentally, physically? And what is your regiment looks like? I'm curious.
For my fight camp, I'm mostly training jujitsu, and I have some people that are like my main training partners, and it's less of classes and more of sparring and drilling. And so if I do an hour session with, there's a Rooster male black belt up here that's one of my main training partners because it's hard to find people my size, and he's amazing. And we start all of them with double guard pulls because the small girls, like, that's all it is. And then we'll basically roll for about an hour, hour and a half, depending. And that's going to be on the really like the hard days, the competition days. And
Mm-hmm.
then I run the Nogi program at my academy. So on those, I teach classes Tuesday and Thursdays. So I will teach. But
Mm-hmm.
then during the training, a lot of times if it's a gi camp, I'll put the gi on in the Nogi classes. And it's a lot more selfish training rather than when I'm not in a camp. So I'm being a little more selfish in that I'm working my A game. I'm not letting my students work as much. I do let them know that, like, hey, I'm going to be turning it up a little bit as I'm getting ready for a camp. That way I'm still getting good looks and working on my A game during the camp. And I do a lot of drilling, a lot of cardio outside of the gym, hot yoga, some strength training, probably not as much as I should, but I really, I claim I lift people, not weights, just because I don't really enjoy weight training, even though I know it's good for you. And then I usually do 2 training sessions a day, one in the morning, one in the evening. And whether that's yoga and jujitsu, sometimes it's jujitsu, yoga, then jujitsu. It just kind of depends on the day and what other things I have going on and how I plan that out.
Nice. So you are nonstop.
Yes. So jujitsu is what I do full time. So I do have that luxury of being able to move my trainings around so that I can still get in all the training that I need to. And also when my body's like, hey, you've been going a little hard, I can also ease up. I take the Monday of each fight camp and I kind of write out what my goal is for the different training sessions and based on the availability of my training partners.
That's awesome. So it's very methodical in planning it out as to how you're. That's awesome. Planning is important. How do you avoid burnout mentally and physically?
So that I found that the best way is to have a tournament after, because then I'm not as focused on the results of the one that is happening right now, because I found that in the past that most of my burnouts come from disappointment, or I didn't perform as well as I felt like I should have, or whatever happened, and then I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel motivated to get back into the gym, and I don't want to train, I don't want to compete. So if I already know where I'm going to next, I can't make those excuses of well, I'm just going to take this week off because I have the next thing and there's always something more to look forward to. I also, after every competition, I give myself like 24 hours. If I lose, to feel how I feel, like to feel disappointed. And then after that, I write down everything I'm proud of, even if I got submitted and scored on. And, there are always good things to it. And sometimes that's my mental, like fortitude and like
Mm-hmm.
the mental training was sometimes those are the victories, but there's always the victories. So I really focus on that part. So that's how I don't burn out in competition. As for training wise, I'm not going hard every single training.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like if you're going hard all the time, it's breaking your body and you can't sustain that long term.
Yeah.
And so there's trainings that I'm getting in and doing more drilling and more lighter rolling. And so then I can play around a little bit more and do the jujitsu for the love of jujitsu rather than I have to put in this work because I want to be a world champion or whatever my goal is at the time.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. You sound like you're on the path. And that's a big thing, right? That a lot of people don't do is we don't celebrate the small victories. And that's huge because the big victories, they don't come around as often, but the small ones are every day,
Yeah. And anyone that's a competitor knows that it's such a roller coaster.
Yes.
One moment you're winning and you just won a great huge title, and the next time you're out in the first round and you're questioning if you even deserve to be out there. And I think if you're showing up, everyone, like, you deserve to be there because you're putting in the work to be there.
Absolutely. And it's just the luck of the bracket sometimes too. Like
Sometimes you just get someone that their game is like directly opposite of yours, and it just sinks into those holes that you have or that you didn't know you had. And you're just like, well, their jujitsu is better than mine today.
Well, yeah, there's an opportunity to learn, right? That's the
Yeah.
whole point. And that's the whole point of going out and challenging ourselves is to kind of push those limits, and sometimes it works in our favor and sometimes it doesn't. You learn, right? You win or you learn. So I'm curious, what is Women That Roll? Where did that come from? Where is it going? What is it now? Tell us a little bit about that. I know you've been doing that for a long time now.
So I actually started Women Who Roll as a white belt because I didn't have female training partners. And, back in 10 years ago, there just weren't as many women.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of the women that I did see were at like Girls and Geese events,
Mm-hmm.
and that was amazing. And I was like, well, I want to do something to try to get more women into jujitsu. So I started kind of documenting my journey and everything, and trying to be like a positive influence in jujitsu to try to show women like, hey, you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is amazing. Like, look at how much jujitsu did for my life, and it can do it for you too. And then it kind of progressed from there and became a blog. And it was really active during the COVID era, because what else did I have to do besides write about jujitsu? And I couldn't train jujitsu. And now I want to, people aren't reading blogs as much. They're listening to stuff, watching stuff. So now the next step is to take it into a podcast, because there's so many amazing women that I've met through jiu-jitsu and have amazing stories that I want to showcase.
No, absolutely. That as many platforms that we can scream atop of, the better.
Yeah, and I hope to work at making it a nonprofit to also help get women access to train, because sometimes it's the financial part or the gis, or like, it's really hard. It's expensive to do jiu-jitsu, especially in the beginning, to be like, wait, $200 a month and plus the gis and all that.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why we started our scholarship program. That's a large part of why I got involved with Girls and Geese, is because 15 years ago, it was like, there's got to be something out here, because the financial has always been the number one issue. And I can't tell you, the need is huge. So the more of us that are helping the women that really have a passion to do it, but don't have the means, that's what's going to change. That's the whole point, right? Is to
Yeah.
get us all on the mats. Like, so that's amazing. That's awesome. I applaud every organization that's out there doing these scholarships, giving these women these opportunities, because like I said, the need by far outweighs our means. And the more of us that are able to do it, the more women we're going to get on. And that's how you bring change. That's how we've gotten as far as we have. That's why we are where we are, is
No, for
because
sure. Like when I started jujitsu as a single mom, so paying for jujitsu was so difficult.
oh,
And Alex Martins was incredible, and he actually cut me a deal so I could continue training jujitsu. And if he hadn't, I don't know if I would be here, if I could have afforded to continue training, because it is expensive. And now
yeah,
that I'm in a better place, like I want to be able to help the women and the girls in jiu-jitsu and in like wrestling and all the other grappling sports do the things and start breaking more glass ceilings so there's more of us.
absolutely. Well, it was such a pleasure. I'm so glad that we were able to connect again. It's been a very long time. Um, but it's always a pleasure, and I love what you're doing. Keep doing all the awesomeness. Keep inspiring. I'm glad that you're venturing into the yoga world and continuing that tie and that relationship, because I think it's very. I think it brings a very grounding aspect to jujitsu, and there are so many similarities between the two, because there is kind of a heightened awareness that does come out of jujitsu. When you're rolling, you're in the moment. You're present. You know.
And I'm also hoping that I can maybe get some of those yoga girlies over into jujitsu. You know,
Awesome.
like
That
bring my jujitsu friends into yoga and my yoga friends into jujitsu, and that'll be fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you take care. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you guys next time. Let us know if we can help out in any way possible.